Welcome to LyFiveElements, where we are dedicated to sharing the wisdom of traditional Chinese metaphysics with the world. Our mission is to teach complex subjects like the four pillars of destiny, also known as Bazi, Qi Feng Shui, and more, in simple, easy to understand English. Subscribe and share our content to help spread this ancient knowledge. Your support is what drives us forward. We also offer personalized one-on-one consultations to guide you on your metaphysical journey. Feel free to leave a comment or contact us directly for more information. Thank you for being part of our community. Hello everyone, I'm Marvin. Welcome to the intermediate course. This is lesson 1 on how to analyze marriage and relationships through Bazi. Because marriage and relationship analysis in Bazi involves a wide range of concepts, I will divide this topic into several lessons. For example, we will look at whether a Bazi chart indicates divorce, and if so, when divorce is most likely to occur. We will also examine the key factors that influence marriage and relationships, such as extramarital affairs and infidelity, and how to identify signs of marriage disharmony between spouses through Bazi. Some charts may even show indications that a spouse passes away earlier. There are also charts that indicate a lack of desire to marry, which can likewise be identified through Bazi. In addition, indicators related to same-sex orientation, low sexual desire, and sexual incompatibility can all be factors that affect marriage. We will also analyze how many relationships a person is likely to experience before marriage, and whether there may still be romantic temptations or encounters after marriage. Furthermore, we will cover how to determine when one is likely to meet the spouse and when marriage is most likely to take place. That is how to read marriage timing from the Bazi chart. In addition, Bazi can reveal the future spouse appearance, temperament, personality, and educational background. It can also be used to analyze the directional relationship between the future spouse family and one's own family, as well as whether the future spouse is likely to be older or younger. Finally, we will discuss what constitutes a high-quality marriage, a moderate marriage, and a challenging marriage. Based on the scope of this material, I estimate that it will take more than 3 lessons at a minimum. 3 full lessons to explain marriage and relationships clearly and thoroughly. So today, we will first go over the core principles together. What are the core principles of analyzing marriage through Bazi? The most important aspect lies in 2 key indicators. The first is the spouse palace, specifically the day branch and whether it is favorable or unfavorable. This requires us to determine first whether the day master is strong or weak, and then identify the favorable elements. If the 5 element of the day branch, the spouse palace, is favorable, it indicates that one can receive support from the spouse and the spouse family. If it is unfavorable, it suggests a lack of support from the spouse family. This constitutes the first core principle of marriage analysis in Bazi. The second core principle is to examine the spouse star, specifically the wealth and officer star, among the 10 gods and determine whether they are favorable or unfavorable. As we know, for men, the direct wealth star represents the wife, while for women, the direct officer star represents the husband. If a man does not have direct wealth in his chart but has indirect wealth, then indirect wealth is used as the spouse star. Similarly, if a woman does not have direct officer in her chart, then 7 killings is used as the spouse star. The key is to determine whether the spouse star is favorable or unfavorable to the individual. If the man's direct wealth or the woman's direct officer is favorable, it indicates a happy and harmonious marriage. If it is unfavorable, it suggests an unhappy or unstable marriage. This forms another core principle in Bazi marriage analysis. Let's randomly look at the Bazi chart and examine the couple's relationship. This is a Jiawood day master supported by the monthly branch, so the day master is well rooted. On the heavenly stance, there are 2 additional Jiawood Next to the day master, and in the year stem, there is Gui water, nourishing the Jia wood. This indicates a strong day master chart. For a strong chart, wealth is always the favorable element. Therefore, we can conclude that his spouse star is favorable, suggesting that the marriage relationship is relatively harmonious and happy. Next, we analyze the day branch, which is known as the spouse palace, to determine whether it's favorable or unfavorable. In this chart, because the day master is strong, the spouse palace is churn earth. Wood controlling earth represents an outflow of the day master's energy, which again makes it a favorable element. This indicates that the man is able to receive support and assistance from his family, particularly from his wife's family. Let's look at another example. This is a female Bazi chart. This is a Wu Earth day master, and at a glance we can tell that it is a weak day master chart. For a weak chart, the officer star is not a favorable element. In this chart, there is no direct officer, so we take the 7 killings as the spouse star. 7 killings represent something that controls the day master, and since the day master is weak, this indicates an unfavorable element, which in turn suggests that her marriage is not harmonious or happy. Next, we look at her day branch, also known as the spouse palace, to determine whether it's favorable or unfavorable. Because her day master is weak, the water in the spouse palace further drains the energy of the Wu earth. Therefore, this spouse palace element is not favorable, but rather inauspicious for the day master. Under such an unfavorable condition, this indicates that she is unable to receive support from her husband's family. This brings us back to the first core principle. Everyone must understand whether the spouse palace is a favorable or unfavorable element. Then for men, we examine the wealth star, and for women, we examine the officer 7 killing star to see whether these stars are favorable or unfavorable. This allows us to judge whether one can receive support from the spouse family and whether the marriage is likely to be happy. As for what kind of support one can receive from the spouse family, this depends on which 10 gods are hidden within the day branch hidden stems. If wealth is hidden, it indicates financial support. If direct resource or indirect resource is hidden, it suggests support in education, learning, or academic matters. If officer is hidden, it implies that there may be someone in the spouse family who holds a position of authority or public office and is able to provide assistance. Therefore, the specific type of help one receives is determined by which 10 gods are hidden in the hidden stems of the day branch. Next, let's look at the core principles of marriage and relationships. We'll use an example here. In the male chart, the day master is strong and wealth is a favorable element, but the day branch is unfavorable. This indicates that the couple's relationship itself is relatively good, yet he is unable to receive support from his wife's family. This is why it is important to clearly distinguish between two different concepts, whether the spouse palace is favorable and whether the spouse star is favorable. These are not the same. One reflects whether the marriage is harmonious or happy, while the other reflects whether one can receive support from the spouse family. For example, when the day master is weak and wealth is an unfavorable element, it indicates that the relationship between the husband and wife is not very harmonious. However, if the day branch is favorable, then he is still able to receive support and assistance from his wife's family. If in a male-female chart, the day master is strong and the officer star is favorable, but the day branch is unfavorable, this indicates that the marital relationship itself is relatively good, but she is unable to receive support from her husband's family. By the same logic, when a female day master is weak and the officer star is unfavorable, but the day branch is favorable and supports the day master, this suggests that the marital relationship is not very harmonious, Yet the woman is able to receive support and assistance from her husband's family. Therefore, each situation must be analyzed specifically on a case-by-case basis. Of course, the best scenario is when both the spouse star and the spouse palace are favorable. In this case, one can receive support from the spouse family and enjoy a relatively harmonious marriage. Different combinations lead to different outcomes, and this is the core principle behind such analysis. In addition, we evaluate the couple's relationship through the scoring of the spouse palace. What does this mean? We assume that the character occupying the spouse palace starts with a total score of 100 points. If it is affected by punishment, clash, break, or harm, points are deducted. Furthermore, in the male chart, if companion wealth are excessive and the direct or indirect wealth stars are weakened or controlled. In the female chart, if eating god or hurting officer is excessive and the direct officer or 7 killing stars are weakened or controlled, points must also be deducted. This is why I have emphasized earlier that everyone must clearly understand the generating and controlling relationships among the 10 gods. For men, direct wealth and indirect wealth represent the wife, while friend and rock wealth control wealth. Therefore, if a man has excessive friend and rock wealth, causing damage to his wealth stars, this also requires deductions to the spouse palace score. For women, direct officer and 7 killings are considered favorable elements, while eating god and hurting officer control the officer stars. Therefore, when a woman has excessive eating god or hurting officer, her direct officer or 7 killing stars are also damaged. All of these situations require point deductions. Assume the spouse palace starts with 100 points. If all 100 points are deducted, then divorce occurs. However, even if only 10 points remaining, the couple will not divorce. They may live separately or argue frequently, but they will remain married for life. We further divide this into different categories, but at this stage, you only need to understand the underlying principles. These details do not need to be memorized. Once you understand the logic, you will be able to assess the quality of a person's marital relationship at a glance. For example, when the spouse palace is affected by the 3 punishments. What are the 3 punishments? As we covered earlier in the course, they are 丑未戌, yin si shen, and 子卯 punishments. If the spouse palace is punished even once, the entire 100 points are deducted immediately. When the spouse palace encounters a 6 clash, 70 points are deducted. What are the 6 clashes? They are 寅申、巳亥、子午、卯酉、辰戌、丑未。If the spouse palace is directly involved in a 6 clash, 70 points must be deducted. However, in some cases, when the year branch clashes with the spouse palace with one branch in between, the interaction is more distant, so the deduction is reduced to 60 points. 6 harm also results in point deductions. The 6 harms are 子未、丑午、寅巳、卯辰、申亥、酉戌. The energy of 6 harm is much weaker than that of 6 clash. Therefore, a 6 harm leads to a 30-point deduction. And if it occurs with one branch in between, the deduction is 20 points. 6 brick carries even weaker energy and therefore results in smaller deductions. When the spouse palace encounters a 6 brick, 20 points are deducted, and if it is separated by one branch, only 10 points are deducted. The 6 brick combinations are 子酉、寅亥、卯午、辰丑、巳申、未戌. All of these have been explained in earlier lessons. In summary, when the spouse palace encounters punishment, clash, harm, or break, its score must be deducted accordingly. When we look at the spouse palace, we should understand it this way. Regardless of whose Bazi chart it is, in the male chart, the spouse palace is assumed to virtually contain a direct wealth star, because direct wealth represents the wife. This direct wealth is conceptual rather than literal, which means you don't see it in the chart, but it is there when analyzing marriage and relationships. Likewise, in a female chart, the spouse palace is assumed to virtually contain a direct officer star, because direct officer represents the husband. This officer star is also conceptual. In a male chart, if companion appears in the spouse palace, we assess deductions based on the main qi, secondary qi, and residual qi of the earthly branch. If companion is in the main qi, 10 points are deducted. If it is in the secondary qi, 6 points are deducted. If it is in the residual qi, 3 points are deducted. If robbed wealth appears, the deduction is heavier because robbed wealth directly controls direct wealth. 20 points are deducted for main qi, 12 points for secondary qi, 6 points for residual qi. This is because main qi represents 100% of the energy, secondary qi represents about 60%, and residual qi represents about 30%. So the point deductions decrease accordingly. Next, let's look at the month ruler, because it is very close to the spouse palace. If the month ruler also contains energy that controls the spouse palace, points must be deducted as well. As mentioned earlier, the male spouse palace contains direct wealth and female spouse palace contains direct officer. What controls direct officer? Eating god and hurting officer control direct officer and 7 killings. Therefore, when a female chart has eating god or hurting officer in the spouse palace, points must be deducted. Since the monthly branch is close to the spouse palace, the same principle applies. If a male chart has companion or robbed wealth in the month branch, points are deducted from the spouse score. If a female chart has eating god or hurting officer in the month branch, points are likewise deducted from the spouse palace score. In addition, there are 3 characters that are very close to the spouse palace. Let us first look at the month stem and the hour stem. Using the same principle in a male chart, if the month stem or hour stem contains companion, 5 points are deducted. If it contains robbed wealth, 10 points are deducted. In a female chart, if the month stem or hour stem contains eating god, 5 points are deducted. If it contains hurting officer, 10 points are deducted. In addition, the hour stem is also very close to the spouse palace. Applying the same principle in a male chart, if companion appears in the hour branch, 5 points are deducted for the main qi, 3 points for the secondary qi, and 1.5 points for the residual qi. If wealth appears, 10 points are deducted for the main qi, 6 points for the secondary qi, and 3 points for the residual qi. In a female chart, if eating god appears, 5 points are deducted for the main qi, 3 points for the secondary qi, and 1.5 points for the residual qi. If hurting officer appears, 10 points are deducted for the main qi, 6 points for the secondary qi, and 3 points for the residual qi. As for the year stem and year branch, they are too far away from the spouse palace, so no points are deducted here. The main focus is on the 4 characters adjacent to the spouse palace, as they are very close to it and therefore require score deductions. So how do we determine divorce? We will look at whether the spouse palace score falls below 50 points. The spouse palace has a maximum of 100 points. When 100 points are deducted, divorce is inevitable. If the score is below 50 points, divorce does not necessarily occur. In such cases, we then examine the major luck cycles and annual cycles. When during a major or annual cycle, the spouse palace encounters punishment, clash, break, or harm, or when in this cycle, a male chart encounters companion or rock wealth, or a female chart encounters eating god or hurting officer, this may indicate a potential timing for divorce. Now let's look at this person's score. This is a female Bazi chart. First, we examine the earthly branches of the 4 pillars. There are no punishments, clashes, breaks, or harms, so no points are deducted at this stage. Next, we need to understand the core principle. In a female chart, the day branch, or the spouse palace, virtually contains a direct officer. What controls the direct officer? Eating god and hurting officer control the officer star. We then examine which hidden stems appear in the earthly branches. We see that in the hour branch, the secondary qi contains hurting officer, which controls the officer once. Looking at the other characters surrounding the month branch, which are the month stem, month branch, and hour stem. None of them contain eating god or hurting officer. Therefore, her spouse palace score remains relatively high. She only has 1 occurrence of hurting officer in the secondary qi of the hour branch, resulting in a 6-point deduction. From 100 points, 6 points are deducted, leaving her with a spouse palace score of 94. As we discussed earlier, direct officer is not her favorable element, and the spouse palace is also not favorable for her. This means she cannot receive support from her husband's family, and her relationship with her husband is not very harmonious. However, because her spouse palace score is still 94, divorce does not occur. The couple may not be very happy, but they are still able to stay together for a lifetime. This is how we interpret such a case. Now let's move on to another Bazi chart for further analysis. This is a Geng metal day master. The month branch, high water, drains Geng metal. And both the month stem and the hour stem are fire, which further control Geng metal. Based on this, the chart is clearly judged as a weak day master. For a male chart with a weak day master, wealth is definitely not a favorable element. Next, we examine his spouse palace. The spouse palace is earth, and earth generates metal. So we can conclude that although the couple is not very happy together and the marriage is not harmonious, this man is able to receive support from his wife's family, particularly in his career and work. Why do we judge this as career-related support? When we look at the hidden stems of the day branch, we see direct wealth, direct wealth represents stable income. This suggests that his wife's family is likely to provide assistance related to his career or employment. What 10 gods are hidden in the spouse palace determines what kind of help the person can receive. This is something everyone should understand and gradually verify through real cases. Next, let's examine his marital relationship. First, the day branch Chen and the hour branch Shi form a Chen-Shi clash, which is a sixth clash. A sixth clash requires a 70-point deduction. And because these two branches are directly adjacent, the full 70 points are deducted, leaving only 30 points. We know that in the male chart, the spouse palace virtually contains direct wealth. What controls direct wealth? Companion and rob wealth control wealth. We then check whether companion or rob wealth appears around the day branch in the month stem, month branch, hour stem, and hour branch. We find that in the secondary T of the hour branch hidden stems, there is rob wealth, resulting in a 6-point deduction. So 70 plus 6 equals 76 points deducted, leaving him with 24 points remaining. Since he has 24 points, divorce does not occur. The marital relationship is indeed poor, but he can receive support from his wife's family, and the couple will not divorce. If divorce were to occur, when will it happen? It would be when the spouse palace encounters punishment, clash, break, or harm during a major luck cycle or an annual cycle. Let me give an example. You can see that in his chart, there is a Chen-Shi clash in the earthly branches. If another Shi appears, then two Shi branches clash against one Chen. His spouse palace originally had just over 20 points remaining. Once it is hit by another clash, there are no points left. That year, 2018, then becomes his marital calamity year. At that time, the couple is likely to argue, fight, and experience serious conflict. Whether they actually divorce depends on their personal fate and choices. If he does end up divorcing, you can judge that the divorce occurred in that specific year, because in that year the spouse palace encountered a clash, making divorce possible. Everyone needs to understand this idea clearly. Some people have a high spouse palace score, even though their marriage is not very happy. Just like the female example we discussed earlier. Her marriage was unhappy and she could not receive support from her husband's family. Yet she still does not divorce and can remain married for a lifetime. Some people then ask, what if in a couple's Bazi charts, the spouse palace deductions are very different? For example, one person's 100 points are completely deducted while the other person only loses 10 points and still has 90 points remaining. How should we interpret this? You can understand it this way. One person wants a divorce while the other does not. Therefore, each situation must be analyzed individually. What we have discussed here is only about marital feelings and relationship quality. There is much more to cover in the later lessons, and we will take it step by step. Over time, you will gradually gain a deep understanding of Bazi analysis. That concludes today's lesson. Don't miss out. Hit subscribe and share to join us on this incredible journey of discovery. Your support fuels our passion to keep creating. Any questions or need personalized guidance? Leave us a comment or get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for being part of the LyFiveElements family. If anything is unclear, feel free to drop a comment below. I would love to discuss and explore these topics with you.
And for those of you who want to understand your Bazi chart but find the learning process too complicated, you can always message me for a one-on-one consultation. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Your support truly motivates me to keep sharing this knowledge. See you in the next lesson.